everybody. Welcome back to the America First Warehouse here in Ronkonkoma, New York, where we are coming to you live. And this is the On the Right Side podcast. I'm Steve Levy, your co-host, former Suffolk County executive, former New York State Assembly member, the president and executive director of the fiscally conservative think tank, the Center for Cost-Effective Government, and a regular insider to Newsmax and other periodicals throughout the country. And all right, that's my opening. It went so long, we got to leave. But I'm usually here with our good friend, my co-host David Zare, who's on assignment. As you know, David is from Real America's Voice. And, you know, every other week he's tapped to be interviewing with President Trump or Pete Hegseth or whoever it might be. So he's doing good work for us today. So in his place, I am really, really fortunate to have a very good friend of mine, someone who's very well known in these parts on Long Island. He's a former New York State Supreme Court Justice, William Condon. He's a graduate of SUNY Albany, then Hofstra Law School, presently is working with Mediation Solutions of New York. And Bill Condon, welcome to our show. It is an honor to have you, Your Honor.
Well, thank you, Steve. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. This is quite a surroundings. It's definitely is America first.
It really does take your breath away, doesn't it? It's
It
like,
does.
for people who've never been here, they come in here for the first time, and you really have to have a camera on them because the eyes light up. It happened to you. You were here a long time ago. You kind of forgot just how amazing this place is, right? It's like a museum for patriots.
It really is. It's Disney World for patriots.
Good way to put it. I think you came here a couple of years ago when we had a book signing from Miranda Devine, the amazing author at the New York Post.
Yes.
But that's what they do here. And thank you, Joe the Box, who is our owner and proprietor here, makes it all possible. But we've had people like Bill O'Reilly and General Flynn and Monica Crowley. I'm just looking at the board over here.
Sure.
Sid Rosenberg, Kellyanne Conway. It's Greg Kelly. It's an amazing, amazing venue. But anyway, we're here to talk politics. I missed last week. David took over for me, and I can't believe what happens in 2 weeks, Bill. It's like Rip Van Winkle. You fall asleep, and it's like 40 years went by in news. So let's talk about some hot stuff right now. This craziness with what they're doing in Minneapolis with ICE. I think it's a travesty. It's to the point where it's almost an insurrection, where you have Governor Walz, the mayor, the Attorney General, not only saying we don't like ICE, but really egging on the people of Minneapolis to attack ICE, not just protest, which is the American way, but really to the point where they might be crossing the line. All right, Judge, what do you think? At what point do they actually cross the line? And what should, the DOJ has subpoenaed Walz, Fry, and Ellison. What's your take?
Well, let me say this first of all. Keep in mind the backdrop of what was going on in Minnesota before all of these attacks started. You have a massive fraud with money flowing to Somalia from that state.
Billions with a B.
That's correct. And I wonder if half of this is happening to kind of, misdirect people away from that for the time being.
Well, Walz is and Fry are happy about it.
Yeah, sure.
No one in the media is talking about the billions in fraud through the daycare system. They're all talking about ICE. You're right on that.
And the other takeaway for me, and the more that you look at what's happening, there are professionals on the ground, professional insurrectionists who are provoking common citizens to harass federal agents who, frankly, are just trying to do their job and get criminals and get, the illegal element out of our country.
It's funny, you mentioned the professional aspect. I just wrote an article that I just submitted to Newsmax. I write like a monthly, sometimes it's every other week, that I get an article in there. It's really about that, and the headline on it is, the protests in Minnesota are less about immigration and more about Marxism. Because what you'll find is that many of the protesters in Minneapolis protesting ICE were the same ones who were protesting in Occupy Wall Street, the same ones who were protesting Black Lives Matter, the same ones that were protesting any leftist, the No Kings rally. You just pick them up, you transport them here, and they do the same thing, paid for in part by billionaire George Soros. And there's even a billionaire who's got ties to the Chinese Communist Party, Judge Condon. And I think you hit the nail on the head there, okay? So now we've got the DOJ who subpoenaed these elected officials. You don't see this very often.
No.
Do you think, I was listening to Clay Travis and Buck Sexton on the way here, and there's actually odds out there right now. Will they be indicted? Your thoughts?
Will they be indicted? Can't predict that.
Well, you have to predict it because there's betting lines on it.
I would say more likely than not, but they should be indicted on.
You
I
think more likely than not they will be indicted
on the fraud aspects, or
no, not the fraud.
Okay,
the fraud. I think it's an easier case to
Yes,
make.
so
I'm
do I.
talking about on insurrection and ginning up the public to do really outrageous things, which segue us into that despicable activity last weekend, where protesters charged into a church, a house of worship, and were terrorizing people. You had little kids crying in the church pews.
yeah,
What do you think? Legal or illegal?
illegal
Absolutely.
to move into a house of worship, which, by the way, there was a service going on.
Right.
There was, I don't know if it was mass, but it was an ongoing service, and these people burst in. Now, keep in mind, Steve, and I've seen it, Fox has shown, they got their hands on, actual manuals that have been distributed to the public. The woman, Ms. Good, who was shot,
Desiree Good, right?
was in possession of them.
Yeah. She was in a
as
group
was
called...
her wife in possession of
She
them.
was in a group called Ice Watch,
Yeah.
which, again, you mentioned the professional aspect of
Yes.
it. When I said that this movement is all about Marxism, I don't know if you folks out there heard of a guy named Saul Alinsky, okay? But Saul Alinsky was the guy who wrote Rules for Radicals in the early 70s. And he was a Marxist. And, you had this undercurrent of Marxism at the time with the Weather Underground, the Black Panthers, and all of these crazies who...
Going back to the 60s
Yeah,
and 70s.
yeah. And their goal was not just to stop the Vietnam War. That was their ruse to overthrow capitalism and create their own communist utopia in America. So he said, this is how you do it. You agitate, you lie, you cheat, you steal. Ends justify the means. You demonize your opposition. You call them Hitler, because then any tactics against Hitler are justified, and you pound, violence, whatever. And those are the tactics that are being taught to these people. So I ask you, Judge Condon, the gavel's in your hand. Desiree Good refuses to follow the orders of the police officer. Stop your car, get out of your car. You're blocking our methods. She revs her foot on the gas, hits him, pulls out his revolver, shoots it 3 times. You have half of the nation saying justified shooting, other half of the nation wanting this guy to go up on trial for murder. Judge Condon, how do you rule?
Well, here's what's fascinating about that episode is everybody has seen the tape. Now, there are different tapes from different angles that tell somewhat different stories. But number one, that officer there is no way that he should be charged with anything. Keep in mind that for him to be charged, what is key is what was in his mind.
Exactly.
Not hers.
That's the point that we need a judge to make here,
Yeah.
because everyone says, oh, well, she didn't mean to run him over. Irrelevant.
Yeah.
Irrelevant.
My take, and ironically, I mediate now professionally all sorts of cases, many of which are car accidents that occur, and we have to determine who's at fault, and then we go to the injury perspective. But fault has to be determined. Watching that video as many times as I have, I do not believe that Ms. Good intended to strike the officer, the federal officer. However, was she negligent in the way that she pulled away? Definitely. Was she reckless? I say yes.
Well, that would come into play if we were looking to charge her or her wife, who you could say was egging her on. But if what you're doing is seeking to charge the officer, anything in their minds is irrelevant, as you were
Correct.
saying. And what is only relevant is, was the officer acting as a reasonable man or woman would in reaction? Now, here was a guy who was yanked months ago for 100 yards
Yeah.
by a criminal alien trying to escape. He sees a woman defying his orders, pressing on the gas, coming right at him. Definitely a justifiable shooting. And she put herself, whatever her motive was, she put herself in that position and she assumed the risk.
She did. And she was the mother of young children and, frankly, should not have been there.
Well,
But
this is what we have to talk about in the next segment, because the people who are the radicals today, they used to be Weather Underground, Black Panther type. Now they're soccer moms, folks. So we have to talk about that. Stick with us. We're here with Judge William Condon. We're at the America First Warehouse in Ronkonkoma, and we will see you all back in 3 minutes.
Most people think they have options when searching for the best deals when they travel. But here's the shocking truth. 100% of the major travel agencies are owned by just two entities, Expedia and Booking Holdings. They claim to offer the lowest rates, but due to the hotel rate parity agreement, they all have the same pricing, limiting genuine competition. When you book through these sites, you act as your own travel agent, but the profits are going to organizations that don't support our patriot values. We cannot allow that to continue. So, we decided to make travel great again by starting a US-based travel membership platform, mypatriottravel.com. We are patriots helping patriots. Together, we can disrupt the travel industry by not spending our hard-earned dollars supporting the radical left. For just $29.99 per month, you gain access to true wholesale rates on travel, saving you on average 35% and up to 65%. Book as often as you like, with no limits. Keep your hard-earned dollars in your pocket and spend them on things you need and want to support. Go to mypatriottravel.com/TAFW and grab your membership today. mypatriottravel.com/TAFW. Making travel great again.
Are you a true American? Then it's time to get connected. Download the America First Media and Television app and stay up to date with real news, bold voices, and live events from the America First Warehouse. From national broadcasts and exclusive shows to comedy nights, concerts, and special events. It's all right at your fingertips. No filters, no spin, just America First. Download the America First Media and Television app today and be part of the movement.
I'm sure you guys remember the platinum single Justice for All with Donald Trump and the J6 Prison Choir. Well, get ready for round two. We're coming out with Anthem of the Free with High Res and the J6 Prison Choir. It's coming out now. It's pre-sale until December 19th when it drops. Get yours on all platforms, Google Play, Apple iTunes. Get it. It's going to be hot.
Justice for all voices ring. The anthem of the free.
It's me, Joe the Box, the America First Warehouse, most patriotic venue in all the land.
The America First Warehouse, a beacon for all to see. A symbol of unity. For the patriots of America, we stand tall and free. In the America First Warehouse, where our hearts will always be.
Hey, folks, welcome back. On the Right Side podcast here in Ronkonkoma, New York at the America First Warehouse. Now, remember that, America First Warehouse, okay? They sponsor, thanks to Joe the Box, who put this all together, amazing events at this venue. So if you're ever on Long Island, you have to pop by here. My guest, Judge Billy Condon, blown away by it. It's really phenomenal. But remember those letters, TAFW, the America First Warehouse, right? Because of all the volatility in the world today, a lot of people are investing in gold and silver, and the folks here convinced me to do the same, and it's doing really well for me. So if you guys want to get in on that action, you go to TAFWSoundMoney.com. That's TAFW, like the America First Warehouse, soundmoney.com. It's been good for me. It can be good for you as well. All right, getting back to what we were talking about in the last segment with our guest host, Judge William Condon. I have to say he's subbing for our usual guest host, David Zare from Real America Voice, who's covering the White House today. Judge Condon, Bill, we were talking about the ICE raids and the what I consider to be the insurrectionist type of response from the Democrats in Minnesota. And I just want to point out that there are consequences to elections. So all you folks in Virginia who decided now that Republican Youngkin is out in Virginia and he's been replaced by Democrat Spamberger, you got a totally different policy now when it comes to ICE. Youngkin was cooperating with the federal government. Spamberger yesterday, with great fanfare, surrounded by her woke contingent, says, we are no longer going to cooperate with ICE. Now, isn't that the exact reason that you have all of this tension in these blue states, these sanctuary cities? If they just worked along with ICE as they do in the red states, you would not have the need for thousands of ICE agents to come in and chase down the criminal illegal aliens. The wardens at the state prisons could simply call up ICE and say, hey, this gangbang is getting freed up in 3 days. Get your people down here and we'll get them out of here. But they won't do it. Why not, Judge?
I can't explain to you why not. I mean, the whole idea is this, if the states were to cooperate with the federal government and the effort to eliminate criminals, people who are convicted criminals, people who are committing crimes, who are here illegally. Do you know how tough it is to get into this country legally?
You got to wait 5-10 years.
I have a potential son-in-law who's trying to immigrate here legally.
Sucker.
From England.
What a sucker.
From England.
Yeah, just tell them to come over on a 2-week vacation visa and stay forever. They'll do nothing to you.
There you go. He's trying to do it the right way, and we're looking at 4 or 5 years, at least.
And a lot of money.
Yeah, oh, yes.
What about that guy? Do you recall? And you folks might remember this. The guy in Iowa who came here from another country on a visa and stayed beyond his rightful time, he became a superintendent of their schools and registered to vote. You can't make this stuff up.
It's true.
But the point I was making early on is that, you know, there's consequences to your votes. And now Virginia, they're going the way of the crazy states. And you know, now they have to flood these areas with the ICE officers to get these people out of here, because you have the ICE Watch resistors who track them and dox them. What do you think of the legality of the mask, both from the perspective, Judge, banning masks on the protesters and or putting the masks on the ICE officers? What's your thoughts?
Well, yeah, the ICE officers are well within their rights to wear masks because they're being doxxed. You know, in this age, in this digital age, all you need is, you know, a view of somebody's face, and you can go on the internet, find out where they live, who their families are, harass them, and that's happening. So the officers are well within their rights to protect themselves and their families, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, as far as the protesters, you know, they don't want to reveal who they are because, as we discussed in the previous
With
segment,
facial, yeah.
they're, most of them are, I can't say most of them, but many of them are professionals.
Right.
And they'll be identified as to who they are.
Well, it's amazing to me because I hear this hue and cry from the liberal media. You you've got freedom of expression. They're allowed to put masks on themselves as protesters. It's illegal to stop that and say, well, wait a minute. It's always been the law in New York. It's always been the law in many states around the country to ban the use of masks during protest or, going into certain places because of potential robberies and stuff
Sure.
like that. And the rationale was, believe it or not many people realize this, it started with the KKK. It was a reaction to the KKK where these creeps were going out and raping people and lynching them and assaulting them with a mask on, and you could not identify them. So none of these liberals were complaining when we said we have to have a law that bans the mask, so if you're doing something really terrible, we can find out who you are. Now, normally I would say, I don't like the idea of masks on law enforcement. There at least has to be a badge number or something, so there is some kind of accountability if they go over the line. But
Good
I'm
point.
okay
Good
with
point.
I'm okay with them having a mask because we shouldn't make it easy for these cretins now who are not just protesting against them, but want to destroy them, want to kill them, want to go after their family. Tom Homan from Homeland Security has to live apart from his family because they're threatened all the time. So is it a double standard? Damn right it is, and it's a justified double standard. Okay.
You said something earlier, and that's obviously true. Elections have consequences. And I think possibly the main reason that President Trump got elected was because of what was happening at the borders.
Big part of that and affordability. Right?
Yeah, I would say that, and the economic reasons were probably number one, number two. You want to be safe.
Right.
You want your family to be safe. ICE is trying to create safe environments in these cities.
He's following out the law and the mandate that
Yeah.
he got from us.
That's right.
If people who voted, 70 million people voted for Donald Trump, say, take those 10 million people who came over the border illegally and send them back. Now he's trying to do it, and you have the liberals and the progressives trying to block the will of the people who voted and won in the last election.
Correct.
So they're out of touch. We see that the Democrats are out of touch with immigration. But there's another big issue they're really out of touch with, the 90-10 issue of biological males being able to play sports against girls and women. Okay? It's before the Supreme Court, Judge.
It is.
You're on the court, Justice Condon. How are you ruling on this case?
Groucho Marx used to have a running joke. He used to say, when success is elusive, lower your standard. And I was a collegiate athlete. I ran track and field at SUNY Albany when I was in college. And you may recall that about that time, which was the early 80s, Title IX, it was enacted.
It was a breakthrough.
Yeah, which has helped young women who wanted to get involved in sports on every level, every scholastic level, high school, college, and it gave them a chance. What's happening? Think about the young women, the girls in junior high, high school, who want to play lacrosse. They want to play soccer. They want to be Olympians.
Right.
They want to be swimmer. They want to win the gold medal in swimming. And they train. They work so hard. They put the time in. They put the effort in. They get to the highest levels of competition, only to find out that all of that effort has been wasted because they're going to lose to a male
Right.
who's physically, that's biology, that's not law, that's biology. Let's face it,
And all the hormones in the world are not going to reverse
No.
the bone structure that you developed by going to
Correct.
male puberty, and or being a 6'4" Leah Thomas, formerly whatever his first name was at the time,
Yeah.
who dives in the pool and is already a full body length ahead of his female competition. It is crazy. But now you have the wacko progressive left, Megan Rapinoe, who was the purple hair soccer star of the women's Olympian team, Sue Bird, Long Island native, who was a professional women's basketball player.
Correct.
And they're saying, you've got to let the biological male, now female athlete participate in these sports. And Bill, isn't it real easy for these retired women to say that? Because they're done. They got their gold medals. They're not going to come in fourth now instead of third because some dude decided to consider himself a woman and kicked him off the medal stand.
You know, if we had a time machine, I'd love to go back in time and ask the 12-year-old Megan Rapinoe how she would feel about it. How she would feel about, oh, sorry, your spot on the high school team is being taken by a boy.
Yeah. And how about this one? The women's, to show the difference in just nature, the women's Olympic team, soccer team, went up against a boys team,
15-year-old.
15 and under,
Yeah.
boys team. The boys won 5-2. 5-2.
That's the Olympic-
15-year-olds
US
and
Olympic
below. So, hey, that's nothing against the women. It's great to watch women's tennis or the women's
Any
soccer.
women's sport.
But that's why you don't have a lightweight fighting a heavyweight. You want to even out the scales, right?
Correct.
But no, not here. Wokeism has to predominate, right? So, all right. Stay with us, Judge Condon. Stay with us, folks. Come back to us in 3 minutes. On the right side, we got another interesting segment for you. See you then.
Have you noticed your money just doesn't stretch like it used to? Your paycheck feels lighter, and your savings aren't growing. The culprits? Inflation and increased money supply. They've both been quietly eating away at your purchasing power for years. Today, the dollar's value has dropped significantly. You feel it every time you spend money on goods and services. Back in 1965, $1 or an ounce of silver could buy you a gallon of milk. Fast forward to today. That same dollar barely buys a couple of coffee creamers, while an ounce of silver would get you 8 gallons of milk. Gold and silver have held their value for centuries. If you had 2,500 ounces of silver back in 1965, you could buy a brand new Ford Mustang. Today, 2,500 ounces of silver would buy you 2 Mustangs. Similarly, in the year 2000, 628 ounces of gold would buy a new $170,000 home. Today, 628 ounces would buy you a $2,500,000 home. The problem? 95% of Americans don't own physical gold or silver. They think it's too complicated and too expensive, but it doesn't have to be. We offer a membership program that allows you to buy gold or silver with as little as $1. You can buy fractional amounts, safely vault them, or have them delivered to your doorstep, and you can liquidate them whenever you want at the highest buyback price in the industry. Ready to protect your wealth and keep your purchasing power? Scan the QR code or go to tafw.soundmoney.com to learn more.
If the vote count is accurate, then how come the number of voters is different? And if it's not accurate, then why was it certified? We are suing Letitia James and the New York State Board of Elections for a conspiracy against fundamental rights. This is not about who won. It's not about what party. It's about the fact that they don't care about your rights.
All right, live from Studio 6B on a Friday night, live at the America First Warehouse. Live at the America First Warehouse on a Friday, Real America's Voice, all across the country, 103.9 LI News Radio, all across your radio, Suffolk County, Long Island. Glad you're in.
It's me, Joe the Box, and I'm John the Blanket with the America First Podcast.
That's what I'm talking about, the Fred Rubino Podcast.
I'm James Justice. We got Stephen Ruth over here. What are we doing, Steve? Fighting!
Welcome to the Patriots Podcast. Good evening, everyone.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the On the Right Side podcast here at the America First Warehouse.
Welcome to Liberty's Cage, the podcast tearing down the walls of America's broken justice system.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Kevin Downey Jr. Podcast. Be free, stay free.
Hey, folks, welcome back to On the Right Side podcast. I'm your co-host, Steve Levy, former Suffolk County executive here on Long Island, former New York State Assembly member, and the executive director of the fiscally conservative think tank, the Center for Cost-Effective Government. I'm also a contributor of articles to Newsmax, to Washington Times, the Washington Examiner, and lots of other places. You'll see my articles from time to time. Go to my website at stevelevy.info to see all the commentary, or to the Center for Cost-Effective Government.org to see all of our position white papers. I am so pleased today because, well, normally I would have the amazing David Zare from Real America Voice as my co-host. He's away on assignment, so we have my good friend, Judge William Condon, former New York State Supreme Court judge for 14 years, now a mediator and in New York, and quite an influential individual here on Long Island, and we've been having a great discussion on so many items. And we ended the last one, Bill, talking about Democrats screwing up these sanctuary cities, and then the craziness where their progressive base is pushing the men and women's sports, which is a 90-10 issue. And, it gets me thinking with all the DEI that they've been promulgating over these last 5 years. We just passed Martin Luther King's birthday, right?
Yeah,
we honor this great American, one of the top Americans of all time, an inspiration for us all. What would Martin Luther King think of this woke movement? Now, there are some who would say he'd be all over it. He'd say that's the way to go. And there's others who say, actually, they've gone too far, because Dr. King's hope was to have everyone treated equally, and now you have people like Ibram Kendi, who writes these books about anti-racism, saying the only way to cure discrimination of the past is to actually discriminate against those in power today. I don't know, would Dr. King be okay with that?
What we're seeing today looks more like Malcolm X than it does Dr. King, when you think about it. What was the key quality that Dr. King espoused? The content of one's character.
Merit.
Merit.
And each individual
You've worked hard and
standing on his or her own merit.
Correct. And I God only knows what Dr. King would think of what's going on. The idea that every black person, and this is actually on the ballot in California, is entitled to reparations for the of course, sin of slavery, which should never have happened, and which is why the Civil War was fought. And
which young people aren't being taught today. They're being taught that America was founded in 1619 to the 1619 Project for the purposes of creating slavery. And what they aren't told is that, yes, we had slavery here. There was slavery all over the world for the history of the world, but America ended slavery.
Correct.
With white people fighting along with black people against white people in the South, and they're not taught that like they should be, right? It's
they're not. Well, schools, unfortunately, are promulgating, woke ideologies. They're not teaching actual history. Right. I found it ridiculous that statues were being torn down in a number of the southern states. Mm-hmm. Learn from history. Mm-hmm. Don't ignore it. Mm-hmm. Don't change it. Learn from the mistakes that were made in slavery.
Well,
so that we don't repeat them.
Touchy, thorny situation with those statues. I'll tell my own personal opinion. I took a little vacation down in Savannah and Charleston 5-6 years ago, whatever. It was a nice little vacation. You go from Long Island, get MacArthur Airport, take one of those planes, go to Savannah, stay there for the night, drive up to Hilton Head, then drive up to Charleston, and you come back. And I did notice a lot of these statues, and there's difference in statues. Right? When I was looking at the statues to the Confederate guys, it did bother me. Because let's say I'm an African-American guy, and I got my 9-year-old kid. And he or she says, "Who's that, Daddy?" That's a guy who tried to keep you in chains and was an insurrectionist and tried to overthrow the United States of America. So that I don't have a problem, removing or put in a museum and explain it. But Theodore Roosevelt, Abraham Lincoln, they were removing Abraham Lincoln's name from schools. I mean, it gets touchier with Thomas Jefferson and Washington, but they weren't insurrectionists. Yes, they were slave owners, and Washington let his slaves go after that, staying on America. But they were also founding fathers who created a constitution that allowed us in America to transform into a better country, So it's a tough issue.
I know you have. You've seen the film 1776, right? Which,
I did.
Of course, was based on
the musical.
The musical. But and for folks out there, if you haven't seen 1776, I think it was made
in the 70s or 80s,
I think
the
70s.
1970s, yeah.
But the history in that film is actually very accurate, and you see Franklin, Adams, Jefferson wrestling over the concept of slavery, and they realize that there's no way they're going to be able to get all 13 colonies to unite.
Right.
If in fact they're going to enforce, and Adams certainly didn't want slavery.
He was a Northerner.
Nor did Franklin.
Right.
As you pointed out, Washington and Jefferson were Southerners, owned plantations, and so owned slaves. But I think Washington, at the end of his life, realized the error in his ways and released them.
But had they not forged a compromise and created one nation, you would have had two nations, one being perpetually in slavery.
Correct.
So they created one, bided themselves some time, and, as time went on, they were able to turn the tide. And it resulted in a war, but we eventually prevailed, or the side of good did anyway. And
which is the irony of tearing down statues of Abraham Lincoln.
Right. But, it's so scary today, though, how it's gone so overboard. You're talking about reparations. I always ask this question. Let's say you're Kamala Harris. Is it Kamala? Kamala. Can't say Kamala. It's Kamala. I always got to get that right. Kamala. What happens with Kamala Harris? Because she's half black and might have had some ancestors who were slaves, but she was also half Indian and had ancestors who were slave owners. So maybe she collects half of the reparations and gives back the other half? I don't know. How does that? What about LeBron James's daughter? Okay, does she get reparations? I don't know. Do Irish people or Chinese people who went through hell in America, get reparations? It's almost impossible to enforce, even though you want to say, this was a terrible, terrible thing. And maybe it was the first generation afterwards, like with the Japanese after internment. You could say, okay, these were the people who were interned. You can help them out. How do you do it 8 generations later in this mixed society? I don't know.
We're not that far removed from no Irish need apply.
Exactly.
Exactly. So,
well, let's talk about Ireland and an island out there in the Atlantic. There's another island out there called Greenland. How's that for a segue, folks? And boy, is that in the news. And so many things going on with this. And 2 weeks ago, I was very critical of President Trump for his MO here. I just wrote an article about this in our newspaper, Long Island Life and Politics. And, we support a lot of things that President Trump does, but we're a little worried. Hey, President Trump, is your legacy going to be one of liberator or thug? Because, you went in there and got rid of Maduro in Venezuela. Great job, okay? But now, aren't we supposed to promote democracy rather than oil? And oil's an important part of it, okay. But then you go say, now we want to take over Greenland. Now, good news today, as I'm driving to this studio, I hear on the news that President Trump finally, thankfully, says, no, force is now off the table. Because he was always hemming and hawing. Look, I never thought he was going to go in with force.
That would have been ridiculous.
It was a negotiating ploy. But you look so damn foolish, and unnecessarily aggravating the allies, who often suck, let's face it. But why tick them off unnecessarily? You want to negotiate? Negotiate. Great thing to get Greenland. Hey, we negotiated a Louisiana Purchase and Alaska. Do the same thing here, right?
I have a trivia question for you. Okay?
He's good in trivia. I'm really good in trivia, too. This is one of the guys that I know in my circles who's right there with me on this stuff.
All right, here's my trivia
And
question.
now he's going to stump me, of course. Go ahead.
From which country did the United States purchase the Virgin Islands?
The Virgin Islands. You think it's France or Spain, right? Because, or it could be, some of them was Dutch. Because, which one is it? St. Thomas? There's St. Thomas and there's St.
Martin.
Croix and
St.
Martin. One of them is Dutch. One of them is English. I'm going to go with the Dutch.
The United States purchased the U.S. Virgin Islands from Denmark.
Yeah.
In 1917.
Is Dutch Holland or Denmark?
That's
I meant
the
Denmark.
Netherlands.
Okay,
yeah.
I meant Denmark. Right.
So
same as Greenland. Right.
So there's precedent
Right.
for this. And the U.S. purchased the Virgin Islands because they wanted a presence in the Caribbean back in 1917.
Right.
So there is precedent for, wanting to have a presence in Greenland. Totally get it.
Right.
For national security reasons.
The minerals.
For minerals. But the idea of taking over Greenland militarily, I think is just
It's
silly.
just an unforced error. I'm so glad it's
Yeah, I would
past
agree.
that with the part about
Yeah.
force. Sit down, negotiate. But, there's times you got to go to war. You got to fight China. You got to fight, the bad guys in Venezuela. And sometimes you got to stick it to your allies who are pulling their weight. And the president did that. But this was unnecessary. All right, come back with us in 3 more minutes. We've got one more segment first. We'll see you then.
You've worked hard and saved, but inflation and increased money supply are eroding your buying power. Protect and grow your wealth with physical gold and silver. Sound Money. With a Sound Money wallet, your wealth stays in your control. Buy fractionally, vault securely, ship directly, and instantly liquidate your gold and silver at the highest buyback price in the industry. Real money, real ownership. Visit tafwsoundmoney.info or scan the QR code and start securing your financial future today.
The America First Ultra MAGA store. For all your MAGA needs. We sell t-shirts, tumblers, flags, hats, sneakers, bumper stickers, and a whole lot more. The most patriotic America First retail store. The America First Ultra MAGA store.
All right, live from Studio 6B on a Friday night, live at the America First Warehouse. Live at the America First Warehouse on a Friday, Real America's Voice, all across the country, 103.9 LI News Radio, all across your radio, Suffolk County, Long Island. Glad you're in.
Corporate transfer. Fine professional, moving and storage, and inventory management.
America First Warehouse was really the most patriotic venue that you can ever imagine. We wanted to build something for people to be able to come to and feel so comfortable and so relaxed, because there is nothing out there like it. We give an opportunity for people to really feel good about themselves and about this great country.
Hey, folks, welcome back to the On the Right Side podcast. I am Steve Levy, your co-host, former Suffolk County Executive and New York State Assemblyman. David Zare is usually with us as my co-host, but today, because David's on assignment, we have a really special guest. He's been doing a great job here. We love his commentary. He's a former New York State Supreme Court Judge, William Condon. Bill, thanks for being with us.
Pleasure to be here, Steve. Thank you for the invite.
Hope you've been enjoying it, my friend.
I have very much.
Good. Well, listen, we ended the last segment talking about Greenland and President Trump's rather aggressive move to make it part of a U.S. territory. And he really ticked me off with his tweet that I didn't get the Nobel Prize, so I'm going to stick it back there. It's really immature, and I hope he gets past this. But he is seeking to promote American interests by getting our foothold in there to a greater extent for security, which, by the way, I think the Danes would let us do, and so would the people in Greenland, and maybe cut some deals for the minerals. But in retaliation for the lack of progress on negotiations, what did President Trump do the other day that set the market on fire yesterday? Tariffs, 10% tariffs on all these European countries to be followed by 25%. Now, one of the big problems with this is he already negotiated an EU tariff. So he basically just tore up that agreement, which is crazy. But we know he likes to use the tariffs as a negotiation ploy, which brings us to Judge SCOTUS, the Supreme Court. Donald Trump is losing sleep every night because he loves the leverage and the flexibility the tariffs give him. But let's face it, it does say in the Constitution that tariffs are under the purview of Congress, but there have been some laws here and there on emergency situations that the president has some leeway. So the question is, how much leeway is there? Judge Condon, you're on that Supreme Court again. This is a hard one. Are they keeping it up, keeping it down, or are they going to cut the baby in half?
It's hard. It's impossible to predict on that issue. We have separation of powers. Look, President Trump prefers to act provocatively. He makes provocative statements. You know, one might even say veiled threats, sometimes open threats. I'm not sure that's always wise. You saw the letter. The president made it public.
Right.
The tweet, private note that Macron
that he then tweeted.
Sent to him.
Right.
And I think if he approached the whole Greenland issue, which is a legitimate issue, and as I indicated earlier, it's not without precedent. So, and I think it's wise to have a presence there. But to try to punish, all of Europe, when really he's the master negotiator. This is an issue that he could negotiate in his sleep. Right. If he does sleep. I'm not even so sure
and
he
you'd
does.
probably have a willing partner on the other side of the table.
You would. Right. I think we have friends there. And, when you constantly provoke your friends and you're antagonistic.
Unnecessarily, just like Canada. I mean, but listen, please, President Trump, continue to fight for our interests when it comes to Europe.
Sure.
Capping their prescription rates and making us pay 3 times more. Go after them, and he did successfully. Go after them when they're sitting on their duffs, not putting up their 2% for defense so that they can have a massive welfare state and waiting for us to protect them, right? So I'm glad
NATO's
he did
supposed to be an organization, not just us.
Right, so I'm glad he's doing that. But to do this stuff, to pick the fights with Canada and Greenland, fight for our interests, but do it in a better way. You don't want to unnecessarily provoke fights that you don't need, right?
I agree. And I think his advisors, especially given the softer tenor of yesterday, and you saw the market take a hit on Monday as a result of, again,
Was it the uncertainty?
threatening.
Right.
I think cooler heads hopefully will prevail, and we can negotiate something. As far as what the Supreme Court will do, as far with the tariffs, it's separation of powers. It's hard to say.
It is. You know what the three Dems are going to do. The three libs are going to say he's got no power at all.
Right.
I think the Republicans are going to have a split, too, because you'll probably have Alito and Thomas saying, yeah, he has a great deal of authority. And you're going to have that middle group, Barrett and Roberts.
See, I think
and Kavanaugh, try somewhere in the middle, I think.
Yeah.
Say you can do it here, but you can't do it there.
I think the way the presiding justice, Roberts, goes will go a long way towards what their answer is.
Yeah, it's going to be like a 3-3-3 decision. And those three guys in the middle are going to have to create a consensus somewhere. One other foreign policy item, and I wrote my article, will Trump be known for his legacy as a liberator or thug? Venezuela. He may be liberating that country. You may see Cuba fall. Iran, is this thing shaking up all over the place. Will he follow through to a point where it gets into a democracy? And then you've got Gaza, where it was a miraculous thing he did, stopping the fighting, getting the hostages back, and it was peace through strength. That's what he did very well, where Biden was just a wet noodle, and they walked all over him. But
and President Obama drew a line and then ignored it.
Yeah, of course, the red line.
Yeah.
But now there's phase 2 of Gaza. This is the hard part, where, okay, we got them back, so this international group is supposed to come in and start running Gaza, and already you've got the French saying, no, we don't want to do that. So, is this really going to happen? Isn't it just going to come down to Israel saying, hey, we're going to clear out Hamas, and then maybe then we could start from scratch and get some kind of moderate in there and then have the money starting flowing for reinvestment. But I don't see the Europeans doing squat.
I understand the political issues that Europe would have with having a presence there. Gaza, if you recall, before getting all the hostages back, President Trump was touting it as a beachside, beachfront
the
resort.
Riviera. The Riviera on the Gaza, right.
And the real estate lends itself to that. There's really no reason why it can't be that. But you're talking about centuries of, disagreement there that it's tough to solve in 4 years.
And corruption. You see, the thing is, the point has to be made when it comes to Israel. When they seek to make peace with an Arab nation and the Arab nation opposed to peace, Israel does. Israel made peace with Egypt. Israel made peace with Jordan. Israel is making peace with Saudi Arabia. The only ones who will not are the radicals of Hezbollah and Hamas, who were the puppets of Iran. So, now that Iran is weakened, hopefully, if the president can work towards toppling that,
we're there.
He'll go down.
This is happening in real time.
I know, but they've wiped out thousands of people. And just like Tiananmen Square, the Chinese knew when you had the revolt, you got to go and you got to crush them fast. It looks like the Iranians are doing that. I wonder what the betting odds are if the movement
But that was
succeeds.
China. This is Iran.
I know, but you got to have the military with you.
Yeah.
You got to have the military. If you don't have the military, you're not going to win that coup. So.
I don't know that President Trump achieves his goal in Iran without military action.
Yeah, hey, they put a fatwa against him. They put a target and said, there's no reason he can't take out their leader. And then maybe there's so much chaos that develops, but they're afraid of, the old saying, you broke to China, now you own it.
You own it.
That's what they're worried about.
And I think he has been, I think he continues to be remiss to put boots on the ground there.
Yeah, well, he was very critical of Bush. Well, he was all over the place with that, with Iraq, for it, against it. But, he ran his campaign in 2016 attacking Bush for trying to have regime change and, put American boots all over the world. And, but circumstances change, and then you become president and things happen, and you have to govern, right?
Sure.
So, hey, we got 2 minutes left. All this stuff leads up to the midterms. And we know if the House goes Democrat, they're impeaching Trump on day one. But right now, it looks like the Dems are going to win the House. But can it change? I mean, there's still a while to go before the midterms. Is that enough time for the economy to really kick in based upon what he's done?
That's the key. The economy is going to have to improve before November. There's going to have to be tangible improvement. We were discussing off camera a few moments ago about affordability.
Right.
Young people. My daughter, 33, lives in the city, which now has a socialist mayor. She has no hope, no real hope of buying a house anytime soon.
Average age now is 40.
Yeah, and that's, if you're in your 30s and you don't have enough money to buy a house and have no path going forward, how are you going to vote?
Yeah, and then you got to figure all the illegal aliens they let in that are taking up a crucial housing supply, and then you have the corporate entities buying up homes to rent out, taking those homes away from your daughter and others, and you've got a perfect storm. And the president has put forth a bunch of proposals to deal with that, but those interest rates have to come down, and housing and rent has to come down so that people finally start feeling it, as they do when they go to the pump, where it's now $2.50 a gallon. So the president's
That was
doing
a win.
something right there.
He needs more wins
Yeah,
like
we got
that.
30 seconds. Any final comments or where people can see you or?
Mediation Solutions of New York. You have a case, you have a dispute. We handle all sorts of matters, whether it be personal injury actions, malpractice. I just handled a federal civil rights case.
So that's Judge Billy Condon, the best mediator that we have in New York.
Thank
And
you.
I'm Steve Levy, your co-host on the Right Side Podcast. We'll see you back next week, folks, 2 o'clock on Wednesdays. Bye-bye.